On today's show, my one-on-one conversations with new Kings rookies, Nique Clifford and Maxim Reo. But I know what all you want to hear about are the things that I've been saying on social media about Jonathan Kuminga and the Sacramento Kings. Lots of smoke, lots of rumors, and I got it for you right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all off-season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News, and I have been active, as many of you have probably seen on X or previously, formerly Twitter, hearing a lot of things over the last, let's call it 24 hours about the Sacramento Kings and their aggressive pursuit of Jonathan Kuminga, or at the very least, their interest in Jonathan Kuminga. Now, before I started putting things out, this was already previously reported. This was already understood, but I started getting wind of how close the deal was to getting done, or further along it was compared to just preliminary conversations. Got wind of what the Sacramento Kings were trying to make available, or were making available in a potential Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade. And then there were other things that came out from other sources and other reputable reporters and outlets that had some information, things that I had heard, things that I hadn't heard, certainly things that I hadn't reported. I'm here to spend this first segment, before we get to Maxime and Nique, spend this first segment for you ironing out specifically what I've heard, what I've reported versus what others have reported and put out there, and then share with you my opinions, my 2 cents, my read on what I feel is going on, right? So there is a ton of smoke around Jonathan Kuminga and a deal, a sign and trade with the Sacramento Kings. And that smoke is throughout different markets, from Sacramento to Detroit, even to some people in Golden State or in the Bay Area. The Kings, this is not a surprise to anybody, are very interested, of course, in Jonathan Kuminga, and they are attempting, or have at least offered, Devin Carter, Dario Saric, and draft compensation to the Warriors in a potential sign and trade deal. Now, that draft compensation is not completely clear. I've heard potentially a first-round pick. I've also heard potentially 2 second-rounders, but some sort of draft compensation added on. I understand completely, when I shared this information, that the response to it, especially from Golden State Warriors fans, and if you're listening and you're a Warriors fan, I don't blame you, is what? That's incredibly underwhelming. Let me remind you, though, that what a sign and trade is and the difference of a sign and trade from just a normal deal, right? This is not the Sacramento Kings straight up offering Carter and Saric and draft compensation for Kuminga in a deal, and that's it. Right? Because what the Kings are essentially trading for is the right to pay Kuminga whatever the sides agree upon. And we don't know what that number is. Could be in the high teens, could be in the low to mid 20s. We don't know what that number is. The Sacramento Kings are not going to trade away. I kept seeing Keegan Murray's name being brought up, and it was silly and foolish, right? Maybe the Warriors, I'm sure the Warriors went, okay, give us Keegan Murray, which should have been dismissed with a laugh very, very quickly. Because the Warriors know, just like everybody should know, that the Kings are not going to trade away a core piece for the right to pay Kuminga. The Kings are still going to be on the hook for whatever deal they negotiate with Kuminga, and that Kuminga and his camp agreed to. So in this case, why do the Kings feel that they can offer such an underwhelming package? Maybe because they know that there isn't really a market out there for Kuminga. This is potentially, hey, if you want something for Kuminga, you don't want to lose him for nothing. Here is something. It's a lottery pick from last year plus Saric, who I know nobody's really excited about, and potential draft compensation on top of that. Take that, or feel free to bring Jonathan Kuminga back, pay him yourselves, and figure it out, even though it's kind of a tricky situation. I'll get more into that in a little bit. So that's what I put out there. And I also shared that I had heard that this deal was in advanced talks. Now, that can be pretty vague. That doesn't mean that it was done or almost done. I never said that the deal was done or almost done. But the talks were beyond just preliminary, intro level, setting the foundation of what a trade could potentially look like. These talks were ongoing and had gotten pretty far along. NBC Sports then, and Tristy Rodriguez, who's a friend of the show, been on Locked On Kings a couple of times, then released an article saying that it was a 3-team deal, reporting that it was a 3-team deal involving the Detroit Pistons. Malik Monk would be going to Detroit as part of the sign and trade for Dennis Schroeder that we talked a lot about over the past handful of days. At that point, things really started picking up, right? You saw reports from Slater saying that this deal is not close to being done. Sam Amick kind of echoed it from the Kings side. Carmichael Dave here in Sacramento echoing it. And that's kind of the point that they are at. So this is everything that I've been told. I never reported it was a 3-team deal. I certainly heard those rumors and certainly heard that speculation, but never said it was a 3-team deal. Never got confirmation from the people that I trust that it was a 3-team deal. On top of that, what I was told was that Malik Monk was not likely to be a part of a potential Kuminga sign and trade with the Warriors to Golden State because the Golden State Warriors didn't necessarily have an interest in Malik Monk. And that's been a common theme. There's not a lot of interest for Malik Monk around the league right now because of his contract, it seems. Plus, the Warriors have Moses Moody and Buddy Hield. So I don't know, there's what room is there for Malik there in Golden State? So that's everything that I reported. Now my 2 cents on this entire thing, and I've already kind of talked about it. I think the Golden State Warriors are in a tough spot with Kuminga. It's not a horrible spot. They're not desperate to move on from the guy, but they clearly have their reservations about him. They don't think he's going to fit their long term. So they have reservations about paying him the money that he is seeking. And Jonathan Kuminga does not want to be there, by all understanding of the situation. Jonathan Kuminga seems like would actively like a fresh start. And the Sacramento Kings are willing to give him that fresh start. So Scott Perry is putting pressure on the Warriors. Not to a tremendous amount where, the Warriors feel backed into a corner because they can always play the long game. And when you look at the package that the Kings that I reported, potentially making available, if the Warriors go, forget it, we'll pay him or give him the qualifying offer for now or whatever, and buy ourselves some time to find a better deal down the road, I wouldn't blame them at all for going that route. But Scott Perry is saying, look, if you want something for him right now and don't want to pay him right now, here's something, but we're not going to give up an arm and a leg to get him because we're still going to be the ones paying him. So that's my read on the situation. That's my read of what's going on. I don't think either side is going to be pushed around in this deal. I think negotiations are probably still ongoing, although they've probably, or at least I've gotten indication they've cooled off significantly from yesterday afternoon. The only real rush here is July 6th. July 6th is 5 days from the announced Dennis Schroeder deal, to which the Kings had 5 days to make it a sign and trade. And it sounds like a sign and trade with Detroit is on the table no matter what. The question is, will Detroit take anything like Malik Monk back or not? That's the only rush on this deal. If they want to make it, if it is a 3-team deal, and they want to include Monk to Detroit as part of the deal and involve the Dennis Schroeder sign and trade, then the deal has to get done by the 6th, at least from my understanding. If not, then this negotiation can continue through free agency and through the offseason and maybe into next season if the Warriors decide to pay Kuminga and revisit this down the road. That's the circumstance. That's what I've heard. Believe what you want. Don't believe what you want. A lot of people have a lot of similar information around the league. That's why it's out there. Now, not all smoke leads to a perfect picture of the fire. But when there's this much smoke, a fire exists. Let's put it that way. And we'll see if anything comes of it. And of course, if it does, I'll have that for you here on Locked On Kings. Like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can be easier. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth, which of course is the goal, isn't it? When I started using Monarch Money, I was immediately drawn to the tracker of where my money specifically was going, right? And Monarch Money broke down even to the establishment, right? Showed my family how much money we were spending at Target every single month, how much money we were spending at Dutch Bros, for goodness sake, every single month, even every single week, giving us these breakdowns so we could see where the money was going, plan accordingly, and make the necessary adjustments. And having everything in one app is such a game changer, right? Some of us have folders on our computer, our own filing cabinets at home, Microsoft Excel sheets, right? Plus maybe other apps that we're using. It gets a little confusing and convoluted. Monarch Money puts it all in one place. So you don't need to go anywhere else. It's a command center at your fingertips. We know finances are complicated enough. Monarch Money makes it as simple as possible. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. So we put the Jonathan Kuminga stuff on hold this morning as I was inside the Golden One Center for the introductory press conference of the Kings rookies, Nique Clifford, Maxim Reo. Got to speak to both of them in person for the first time. Doug Christie, Kings head coach, and of course, general manager Scott Perry, also part of that press conference. It was about 22 or so minutes long. You can listen and watch the full press conference right now. It's up by itself on my Locked On Kings YouTube channel. And you can, if you're an audio listener, go to the episode before this on the Locked On Kings podcast is just the audio from the press conference. So feel free to watch, listen. Great stuff in there. Was really happy with the things that Scott and Doug said. Got the chance to ask them a couple questions. Got to ask Nique specifically about like that Joker alter ego and the mask on when he takes the floor and stuff like that. So some really, really good stuff from that. But then after the press conference was done, we had the opportunity to spend some one-on-one time with these guys and do a one-on-one interview. So I interviewed both Nique and Maxime. We'll start with my 3-minute or so conversation with Nique. I was unbelievably impressed by this young man. The conversations that we had off the air or before and after the interview, in my opinion, were better than the interview itself because it was more us just talking about like his journey in Sacramento and got to meet his family. His parents were super, super nice. So I'm really impressed by Nique. I'm also really impressed by Maxime too. Maxime is brilliant. You'll hear that, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him in the next segment. But please enjoy my one-on-one conversation with the newest Sacramento King, or one of the newest Sacramento Kings, Nique Clifford. Joined by one of the newest Kings rookies, Nique Clifford. And Nique, I want to go back to something I actually asked you over Zoom on draft night. The Kings enter the first round without a draft pick. You're on a list of names to monitor. They realize, wait, we can get him. It's realistic. They trade up. They're willing to spend future assets to make sure you're a Sacramento King. You talked about the love you feel from that, but what does that mean for you? Not only are you accomplishing a dream of making it to the NBA, but you have a team that's willing to go out and get you.
Yeah, no, I don't take that lightly. I'm super honored to even be considered to move up in the draft, and for Scott to make that decision and for me to be his first pick here as a GM, like I definitely don't take that lightly, and I'm super honored and grateful for the opportunity, and I just want to work every single day. I feel like I owe it to them and to myself.
Your versatility is something we heard a lot about in the draft process, talking to your coaches. That's one of the things they really, really pointed out. What is it about your willingness or desire to do everything? Is it just, I just play basketball, or do you make an emphasis to, like, all parts of my game need to be the best?
No, I've always been raised to just play both ends of the floor ever since I was a little kid, and so that's just how I've always played the game. And, I take pride on both ends of the floor and want to continue to grow on both ends of the floor. I want to be a two-way player and somebody that contributes in every aspect of the game. I feel like that's true greatness. If you can impact the game in so many different ways, that's what I want to get to.
Well, it takes courage to play in the NBA, and I know you showed a lot of courage by going from Colorado to Colorado State. There's a big rivalry over there. I mean, what was that journey, that decision like for you? And Coach Faroukhanesh talked about just your growth over that time, going from Colorado to Colorado State to get you here. How big of a change was that for you?
It was an adjustment. It was a hard decision. I loved Colorado and all my people that were there, but for me, it was a business decision to, get to where I'm at now, and ended up at Colorado State with a great coaching staff, a lot of great people that I was around every day, and, shout out to Coach Ali. He really helped me, staying in the gym with me every single day, before and after practice, and just working on so many different things. It was a great situation for me, and, my coaching staff there just set me up for success.
Final one, Nique. You look behind you and you see almost 18,000 empty seats. You see the Kings court out there that's calling your name. What have you heard about the Golden One Center atmosphere? Can you imagine this place being full? And what about that court is calling to you? How anxious are you to get down there?
It's going to be a little different than playing in front of 9,000 people. So I'm super excited for that. I've heard great things about the fan base, about the tradition of lighting a beam, and I just want to be a part of that, start building culture and be a part of something bigger than myself. So I'm super excited to get to work and be a part of that.
Nique, congratulations, my friend. Looking forward to it. Then I got the chance to speak to Maxim Reo. And look, I'm 6'3", 6'4" in shoes. A lot of people are surprised how tall I am when they meet me. In fact, that's like the number one thing I get mad. I didn't realize you're so tall. I realized it's all wasted height, by the way. Like, you look at me and maybe I look like I have the height of a basketball player. None of the skill set. And in fact, you probably look at me and go, yeah, you don't look like you have any basketball skills. That's fair. I can rebound the basketball, maybe block shots because of my wingspan. That's about it. I have the athleticism of a rug. But Maxim Raynaud, 7'2". My neck was hurting looking up at him. He's so tall. But incredibly nice young man. Got the chance to meet his mom, too, who's from France. She came from Paris to be here to celebrate him. She was super, super sweet. I'm just excited about this young man. He's a computer science and mathematics major, or was one, at Stanford. So he's brilliant. I mean, you have to be to go to Stanford, but he is brilliant, and as well as a very talented basketball player. I got to spend about 5 minutes with him, and we spent a lot of time talking about his offensive game, his defensive game, ways that he can play similar to Domantas Sabonis. I think you'll really enjoy my conversation with him. Even talked about the growth of the NBA game and basketball in general in France and all these stars coming to the NBA from France. Great stuff with Maxime. I hope you enjoy. Joined with the Stanford Cardinal, now Sacramento King, Maxim Reo. Max, one of the things you said, you've already answered this question a little bit, but I'm gonna rehash it. You talked about your story of spending a Christmas in Sacramento, coming to a Kings game. So there are 18,000 seats behind you. You know what it's like to be in those seats. What did you experience from the Kings crowd and Kings energy, and how much are you looking forward to now playing in front of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have one of the best crowds in the league. Obviously, the Kings are like one of the only professional sports team here in Sacramento. So we always have an amazing turnout. We wouldn't be in this position without all the fans and everybody here supporting us. 2 years ago, I was in the stands with them cheering for the team, and hopefully being on the court and having them cheer for me is going to be even better. Just can't wait to light the beam with them.
There are two aspects of your game that I'm so curious about. The first one, we'll start with the offense. I mean, taking 16 shots a game your senior year at Stanford, you obviously had the green light, almost 6 3-pointers a game. You're not afraid to let it fly. Where does that confidence come from offensively, and where do you like the ball offensively on the floor?
Yeah, I think confidence come with the reps, really. Right, I've had a very similar routine for the past 4 years. You try to be a gym rat as much as possible. you gain confidence in yourself, your coach gain confidence in you, and your teammates gain confidence in you. So I think that's where it starts. I like the ball really at 2 or 3 spots mostly. I like in the low post to have a little one-on-one there. I like initiating the offense from the top of the key. And then also like anything from like a pick and pop perspective is pretty good as well. But once again, I'm pretty versatile, and I'm just excited to see how they're going to try to use me and how I can fit in this offense this year. There's a ton to learn. You know, NBA is like different rules. You have the 3-second in the key. The gym and the court is a little bit larger as well. So, you know, you have to relearn all of this, but super excited to do that.
You said, I mean, the NBA offense at the top of the key is going to be music to Kings fans' ears because that's a lot of Domantas Sabonis' game, right? How much have you kind of paid attention to that? How comfortable are you with the DHO game, and whether it's top of the key or even sometimes top of the arc, having the offense run through you?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the players I've been looking up to for the past couple of years, to be honest. I know at Stanford we're watching a lot of actually Kings offense. My sophomore year especially, we're playing a lot around that split action around the elbow that they used to do. It's awesome to be able to learn from one of the best. I mean, he's one of the best big men in the NBA, one of the best European in the world. So, yeah, just super excited to learn from him and being able to, you know, follow his footsteps and potentially give some good minutes.
Then there's the defensive side, and I am a lover of shot blocking. I just follow rim protection. I think rim protection is extremely important. That's been lacking here in Sacramento for a while. Now, talking to some of your coaching staff at Stanford, they were saying, we didn't want him to get in foul trouble. We needed him for the offense, but you still averaged almost 2 blocks a game. In terms of rim protection, shot blocking, how much do you enjoy that side of the game?
Well, I think you got to enjoy getting stops first. If you get stops, you can, you know, start running and like get some easy baskets on offense. So I think that's where it starts. We talked to Doug and Scott. I think both of them really want to have a strong defensive-minded team, very tough, very gritty, and I think that's what I'm going to try to bring to the table as much as possible. For shot blocking, I think it's going to be very different. You know, 3-second in the key once again. So I'm going to have to learn that again, but. At the end of the day, you want to get stops. So whatever helps you getting a stop, and after you block a shot or after someone misses a shot, you want to get a rebound, right? And I think Domas and I do that really well. So hopefully we can finish the defensive possession with the ball and, you know, start running right after.
Final thing, Max, I actually want to talk about where you're from, France. And, of course, there's a big man in San Antonio that I know you know a thing or two about, but just the amount of talent that's coming out of France now into the NBA. How big is basketball in your country, and what is it about, like, this crop of talent that is now making their way to the NBA?
Yeah, I think we've had an amazing generation with Tony Parker, Boris Diaw, and all of them that kind of paved the way for us, really showed us that we're able to win European Championship, go very far in the Olympics. And so later generation, you know, Nicolas Batum, Evan Fournier, Rudy started, you know, following that and even improving those results. And now we just love basketball in France. I do think we invest in the youth a lot. I do think our professional teams are really good. You know, there's a Paris team that's rising recently. So that's really good for us. And back-to-back first picks with Zach and Victor, that was awesome. We have Alex, we have Bilal, we have really so many different guys. So I think we always had the talents, but now we have the infrastructure and all the outside stuff that we need to, you know, for them to perform. And the NBA is looking at us even more than 20 years ago. So it's just positive for us. I think we should use that platform in the best possible way for young athletes in France, hopefully inspire them to become the best version of themselves and maybe win a gold medal in the Olympics in 2028. That's the goal.
Well, we're all for having Kings fans in France, Max. Congratulations. Welcome. If you want to ask any questions that I potentially could answer that I know or learned about Nique and Maxime, feel free to ask those questions. If you want to ask me any questions that I could potentially answer on the Jonathan Kuminga situation, I would be happy to try and answer those. So feel free to send those to me at MattGeorgeSack on Twitter. Email me, mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or ask those questions in the YouTube comment section down below. Feel free to also leave your thoughts, your take. Do you like Kuminga? Do you not? What would you give up for him? Your thoughts on the rookies. That's a fair place to put those thoughts in those comments as well. We can get into a conversation there. Anything else that I hear or learn about Jonathan Kuminga, of course, I will be putting out on my Twitter account. Again, that's at MattGeorgeSack. So give that a follow if you haven't already to stay on top of that. And then if anything happens, anything breaks, of course, we'll have another Locked On Kings podcast for you to talk about it all and break it all down. Appreciate your support, as always, to all of you new listeners out there. welcome. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hope you stick around for a lot more. Yes, even you Golden State Warrior fans, we're NorCal neighbors, so we can both bond in our hatred of Southern California at the very least. Appreciate you all. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.